I want to encourage you again that let us not be just Sunday morning believers and even during the week. Now, I have an advantage over you. And the advantage I have over you is I know what I'm going to speak on. Right? I've already thought about it. I've already researched it. So I have that advantage over you. And so in order for you to get it in you, you need to take notes, go back over it, go back over the YouTube video, get that word inside of you, because faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God. So we got another video for you today, because the videos kind of explain it a little better sometimes than I can explain it, and then I'll build on it. So if we could have the lights off, please, and we get that video so that we can learn a bit more today. Go ahead.
Hey there. We all dream of being rich, right? Of course, because no one wants to become poor and live miserably. You've probably seen a ton of videos on how to get rich fast, and maybe you're tired of hearing the same advice over and over. So, let's flip the script. Instead of talking about how to get rich, in this video, I'm going to share with you the fastest ways to end up broke. But wait, you might say, nobody wants to be broke and poor. Of course, but it's also very important to know how someone can end up broke and poor so you can avoid it. After all, how can you avoid a mistake if you don't know what it is? So here are the 10 fastest ways to be poor and broke. Let's find out. Section 1. Close your mind. If you're watching this video, congratulations. You've just avoided the #1 way to be poor. Closing your mind means you don't want to learn about other things, especially when it comes to money. No financial knowledge, no money management, no investing, nothing. The reality is, there are still a lot of people out there who lack financial education. Now, financial education isn't about teaching you how to work at stock market or financial institutions. It's about teaching you how to manage your money and build wealth. When you don't have a plan for your money, no goals, no budgeting, no savings, you're financially illiterate. And that's a problem. Some people might say that financial education is nonsense and not meant for poor people. Well, let's talk about a guy named Ronald Reed. He came from a poor family and worked most of his life as a gas station attendant and janitor. And you know what? He died in 2014 with an $8 million fortune. How did he do it? With a minimal salary, he lived frugally and invested the rest of his money into stocks. If he didn't understand the importance of investing and money management, he wouldn't have died rich with $8 million. With that money, he might have been even richer than his own manager, who likely earned triple or even quadruple his salary. So, if you're wondering what's the point of financial education, Ronald Reed is the perfect example. According to the S&P Global FinLit survey in 2018, only about 33% of the global adult population is financially literate. And that's why financial illiteracy is still somehow a global problem now. Section 2. Spend more than you make. Actually, this is the most classic and simplest way to become poor quickly. We all see influencers flexing luxury cars, designer clothes, and expensive vacations, making it tempting to live a lavish lifestyle. So, let's say you start spending your entire paycheck on fancy dinners, the latest gadgets, and trendy clothes. And what happens when the money runs out? Instead of cutting back, you take out loans or credit card debt to keep up your lifestyle. It might feel good for a while, but soon the bills pile up and the interest rates start kicking in. For example, in 2024, the Federal Reserve and U.S. Census Bureau reported that the average American carries around $8,600 in credit card debt. You might say, but the economy is bad right now. Crisis, inflation, everything. However, a March 2024 survey by Bankrate showed that 36% of Americans still plan to take on debt for summer holiday. Additionally, 45% of American parents with children younger than 18 admitted to taking on debt for Disney vacations, with little to no regret after that. It's not just the U.S. But this also happens around the world that make it a global problem. So the main problem is we live in crisis, but we spend like in booming economy. Section 3. Don't plan anything. A Chinese philosopher named Sun Tzu, who wrote the famous Art of War, once said, "Victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win." So he means that you must plan all things before going to war, so you know what to do as you've calculated everything, and you win the war, while the loser will not plan anything and doesn't know what to do and lose to the one who planned. And this is not only in war, but also in everyday life, especially in finance. The most important financial plan you can make is a budget. Budget is a plan how much will you spend your money. Without a budget, you have no idea how much money you've spent or how much you have left. You might think you still have enough money to keep spending, only to find yourself empty-handed when you need it most. So, instead, you should set your budget and plan, like how much for food, transportation, utilities, entertainment, rent, and more. So, you can manage to have the rest money as saving and investment. By doing this, you can have your life at ease and no need to be haunted by debt or bills anymore. Section 4. Develop addictions. If you want to get poor quickly with some fun along the way, developing addictions is the way to go. Drugs, alcohol, gambling, prostitutions, and other bad habits are like a deadly combo for your life and wallet. If you are addicted to drugs, drugs not only destroy your body but are also expensive. Add in the cost of medical bills, and you're draining money fast. Addicted to gambling might seem like an exciting way to win big, but in reality, the house always wins. You might get lucky and win $100, but most gamblers don't really count how much money they've spent in order to win that $100. If they spent $1,000 to win $100, then it's obviously not a smart move. And then there's addicted to prostitution. You are draining your money on prostitutes, ruins your family, and could even leave you broke after a divorce. Plus, you might end up with AIDS. It's a path that leaves you with nothing but regrets. For example, Michael Carroll, who worked as waste collector, won £9.7 million lottery in November 2002. Instead of planning how he would use the money to change his life, he spent it all on luxuries, drugs, alcohol, and sex parties. And, as expected, by 2010, he had lost all the money and returned to his old job as a waste collector. At least, he has no regrets at all. This is a perfect example of how addiction can destroy your life and money. Section 5. FOMO. FOMO, or fear of missing out, is when you worry about missing out on something important or fun, making you rush into decisions without thinking clearly. For example, back in early 2021, Dogecoin, a cryptocurrency that started as a joke, suddenly went viral. Social media was full of people talking about making money from it, and famous people like Elon Musk and Snoop Dogg were talking about it. Everyone seemed to be buying Dogecoin, and you felt you needed to join in too. Your friend might even say, "If don't buy Dogecoin now, you'll miss out this big opportunity." Even though you didn't fully understand how cryptocurrency works, you were afraid the price might go even higher. So, you put your savings into Dogecoin, hoping for quick profits. But because you didn't know much about the market, you didn't realize that Dogecoin was starting to lose value and competition to other cryptocurrencies. The price peaked at around 74 cents in May 2021, but by the end of the year, it had dropped to about 17 cents. When the hype died down, you ended up with losses instead of gains. This shows how FOMO can lead to quick, risky decisions that will drain your money. Section 6. Get-rich-quick scheme. But wait, getting rich quickly sounds great, right? Who wouldn't want that? Unfortunately, the reality is that about 99% of get-rich-quick schemes are more like get-poor-quick traps. These schemes often lure people in with promises of high returns with little to no risk, but they usually end up being incredibly risky or fraud in the end. Also, most get-rich-quick schemes are also influenced by FOMO too. Take, for example, the infamous Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme, where investors were promised steady high returns with little risk. It turned out that the returns were fake, and Madoff was using money from new investors to pay off earlier ones. When the scheme finally collapsed, thousands of people lost their life savings. You can also watch the full explanation here too. And something you need to consider is, if getting rich were really that easy, why would the people behind these schemes need you? They'd probably keep it to themselves and quietly make big money, right? Even if some get-rich-quick schemes like MLM are legal, you should still be careful. Always do your research and think twice before jumping into anything that promises fast money with little effort. Section 7. Never save. If you want to get poor with some surprises, then just don't save money. One of the biggest mistakes financially illiterate people make is spending all their money without setting anything aside, as most people just thinking about present time and don't really have plan for the future. You've probably heard financial influencers say, "Don't let your money just sit in the bank doing nothing. Invest it so your money can work for you." While it's true that investing can grow your wealth, it's also important to remember that investments can fluctuate in value and aren't always easily accessible in an emergency. This is why it's crucial to set aside money specifically for an emergency fund. And what exactly is an emergency fund? It's money set aside to cover unexpected expenses like job loss, medical emergencies, or crises like a pandemic. The general formula is to have enough saving to cover 3 to 6 months' worth of living expenses. And the more you can save, the better. For example, if you suddenly lose your job and have no income, your emergency fund can sustain you for several months while you search for a new job. But if you don't have an emergency fund, you could quickly find yourself broke and needing to borrow money at high interest rates. According to a CNBC and Acorns survey, nearly 14% of Americans wiped out their emergency savings during the pandemic. Without an emergency fund, you risk getting poor at the first unexpected expense. So, skipping the habit of saving money will make you poor very quickly. Section 8. Spend too much on liabilities. So, what are liabilities? Liabilities are things you buy that don't make you money. For example, if you buy a house and rent it out, it can bring in rental income. In this case, the house is an asset. But if you buy a house just to live in, it costs you money for things like maintenance and property taxes. That house becomes a liability because it doesn't make you money. The same goes for cars. Many people want fancy cars and think they are a good investment. But remember, cars lose value quickly. When you drive a new car off the dealership, it loses about 10% of its value right away. So, whether it's Audi or simple Toyota, it will still get you to your destination. But most of you still need car for work and life, whether it's liabilities or not. Well, that's okay. But remember, if your budget is limited, don't spend too much on an expensive car or take out a loan for it. So instead, you can buy much cheaper and simple car, or even you can buy a good second-hand car, as you must keep your liability as low as possible. When you become successful and have more money in the future, then you can buy whatever you want. Section 9. Neglect your health. If you live in a country without free health care like the US, ignoring your health can lead to huge medical bills and serious suffering. Unhealthy habits like eating junk food, drinking sugary drinks, and not getting enough sleep might not seem harmful now, but the damage could start showing up 10, 20, or even 30 years later. So believe it or not, investing in your health would be your best financial decision you've ever made. Not only does this help you avoid costly medical bills, but it also ensures you can enjoy a better quality of life. Section 10. Surround yourself with negative influence. There's a saying, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Okay, unless you're a kindergarten teacher, then you're doing just fine. This means you should seek out people who are smarter and wiser than you, as they can offer valuable insights and positive influence. Your friends and social circle have a big impact on your life. If you hang out with gamers, your conversations will revolve around gaming. If you're friends with successful investors, you'll discuss investment strategies. But if you surround yourself with drug and gamble addicts, you'll find yourself likely ends up doing drugs and gambling as well. For example, you might know Tiger Woods, one of the best golfers in the world. He won numerous tournaments, signed many deals with major corporations, and was admired by many. Then he befriended other famous athletes like Charles Barkley and Michael Jordan, who were known for their gambling problems. They started influencing Tiger to gamble as well. He began with modest bets, but soon he was placing bets of $100,000 or more. Over time, his gambling issues led to significant financial losses, with estimates suggesting he might have lost up to $50 million over several years. This shows how surrounding yourself with negative influences can have serious consequences. It's important to choose your social circle wisely and seek out positive, supportive relationships. And there you have it, the 10 fastest ways to be poor. So, instead of just focusing on how to be rich, you should also understand and avoid these deadly ways that could make you poor. You might think you've done a great job of becoming rich, but if you're still doing what I just mentioned, maybe it's time to change. Because getting rich is only half the battle, and keeping your wealth is the other battle. Many rich people have lost everything because they fell into these traps. And don't let that be you. If you want me to make other videos explaining these topics, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Go ahead and clap. That was a lot of information, but it was good, wasn't it? It was good. This was good. So, if you want to be poor, to stay poor, he showed you how to do it. So, we don't want to be poor because that's not the will of God. It's not the will of God for us to be poor. And so, with the time I have left, I want to talk to you about how to not be poor, but be rich. And over the past few weeks, we've been talking about the importance of retraining your brain. You have to retrain your brain. So the three things: retrain your brain, reinvest your money, and reclaim your wealth. And understanding again that money is not wealth. Money is simply a tool to create wealth. That's what money is. It's a tool to create wealth. It is to be your servant, not your master. And as we're talking about retraining your brain, we spoke about that we have to rethink. 2 weeks ago, we talked about rethinking how we do business, to understand the business model that we have known, the capitalistic or socialistic model that we've been using is not a biblical model, and that the best model that is really that we have today is, they call it the cooperative model, where it's workers, cooperatives, where the whole point of it is that every worker benefits from the profitability of that company, and not the person at the top is making 300 or 3,000 times more than the person at the bottom, and people are just working and never sharing in the profitability of the company. And so that's when, even within our midst, when we're thinking about starting business, let's not start business around the capitalist model, but start business with the workers' commerce, where 2, 3, or 5 of you come together. The best businesses are started with 3 to 5 people. Not by yourself, 3 to 5 people. That the best businesses that are started. Most of the business that are major businesses, that's how they started, with at least a minimum of 2 anyways, but most of them is 3 to 5 people. Last week, we talked about retraining your brain as it pertains to debt. And I just want to reiterate that again, about that debt is like fire. You can use it to improve your life, or it can destroy your life. If you do not use it in a good way, now understand, debt is neither good nor bad, just like a knife and just like fire. It's neither good or bad, but if you use it wrongly, it could go wrong very bad. And so the best, and understand that the bad way to use debt is to use it to purchase liabilities. And what are liabilities? It takes money out of your bank account and gives it to the person that you borrowed the money from, plus the interest. And that's how you stay poor. That's how you stay broke. That's how you stay struggling financially. And the good way to use debt is to purchase what? Assets. What are they doing? Assets is putting money into your bank account, and you're making more money than you're paying to the person that you're borrowing from. That's what the banks do. And so we need to do what the banks do. So this week, we're going to talk about how to what? Not to be poor, but to be what? Rich. Now, Proverbs chapter 10:4 says, Proverbs 10:4 says, he who has a slack hand becomes poor, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. So let's break this down. What is slack? Now, what slack means, it means that you lack energy. It means you fail to do what you should, or you're very slow or neglectful to do what you know you should do. That's what it means, slack. So you're slow, you lack energy, you're not doing what you know you should do. So when a person doesn't do what they know they should do, it says, you shall be poor. And what is poor? It means to be destitute. It means to lack the necessities of life, food, clothing, shelter, a living wage. So if you don't do what you know you should do, that's what's going to happen. So what does diligent mean? The word diligent means is to be incisive. And what that means is literally to be sharp, to be focused. It means to have clear thought. It means to stay on top of things, that you don't let things slide. Right? And the person who stays on top of things, who stays sharp and focused, that person shall be rich. That word rich means to be or become rich, but it also means to pretend to be rich. And unfortunately, most Canadians and most of us are pretending to be rich. Let me give you some stats here. It says most Canadians, and you understand that most Canadians, just like Americans, there's a lot of people, that we make purchases for the necessities of life, whether it be food, clothing, housing, using credit. That's how we purchase most things. And we also not only purchase the things we need, but we purchase wants. Alcohol, cigarettes, lottery tickets. When you go into the convenience store, you see people buying the lottery tickets using their credit cards. I thought at one time that you couldn't do it, but now the government doesn't care if you get into debt to buy lottery tickets. And so people are using their credit cards, and as the guy said, that most of us are using credit cards to go on vacation. As you said, 45% of American families went into debt to take their children to Disney. Disney just love those families. Proverbs 22:7 says, the rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is a servant to the lender. The borrower is a slave to the lender. So let's look at some statistics. It says, approximately 73.2% of Canadians have some form of outstanding debt or have used a payday loan in the past 12 months. This includes both mortgage and non-mortgage debt. Additionally, around half of Canadians are carrying at least some form of non-mortgage related debt. Debt prevalence. Data from the 2019 Canadian Financial Capability Survey indicates that a significant portion of Canadians are in debt. That means, what is this? 7 out of 10 Canadians are in debt, are living in debt. mortgage and non-mortgage debt. This surveys include both mortgage and non-mortgage debt, such as credit card balances, student loans, and personal loans. And let's look at the debt to income ratio. It says average household debt in Canada is now a significant percentage of disposable income, indicating a growing financial burden for many Canadians. Statistics Canada reports that household debt to disposable income reached over 180% in 2024, significantly higher than in US and Germany. Now, for those of you who do not understand what it means that you're using 180% of your disposable debt, what that means is this, that for every dollar you spend, you're going in debt by 80 cents. You follow me? So you spend it. So every time you make a purchase, you're going 80 cents in debt because you're spending 80% more than what you earn. And so so that's why so many Canadians are in debt. You're spending more than you earn. And understand that when you borrow to live, you're a slave. Why? Because somebody else is benefiting from the fruits of your labor. And isn't that what a slave is? A slave is you're working, but you're not benefiting from the fruits of your labor because you're working to give money to Visa, to MasterCard, to Capital One, to payday loans, to whomever, Amex, whomever. So understand that when you are in bad debt, the fruits of your labor are going to somebody else. You are a slave because you are not enjoying the fruits of your labor. When you borrow to earn interest, then you flip the switch. You become the bank. You're with me? So, this is what you do. Don't spend money to possess things that don't increase your financial worth. Don't spend money that you haven't earned from your labor or you have not earned from your investments or from other people's money. There are two things, and please take note of these two things. There are two things that stop you, just two things that stop you and I from being successful and being rich. Just two things: knowledge and action. Knowledge and action. And so when you don't have financial knowledge, you can't act accordingly. But there's some people that have financial knowledge and don't act accordingly. See, you can have all the knowledge in the world on how to use money, but if you don't act on it, it won't do you anything. You may have now, if you lack knowledge about how to fix a car, can you attempt to fix the car? If you lack knowledge on how to fix a car, can you attempt to fix a car? Yeah, you can attempt to do it, but that doesn't mean you'll fix it. Right? So you can attempt to do something, but doesn't mean you'll do it. And so you can attempt to fix your finances, but if you don't have knowledge on how to fix it, you're not going to fix the finances. Okay? And so it's very important that you get knowledge. Proverbs 28:22 says, "A man with an evil eye hastens after riches and does not consider that poverty will come upon him." So if you run after money, if you're chasing after money, the Bible says that you are going to end up in what? Poverty. Proverbs 13:11 says, wealth gained by dishonesty will be diminished, but he who gathers by labor will increase. That word dishonesty is vapor or breath or no effort. And so if you want to get wealth without any effort, so when people say, you know what, you can be rich and you don't have to work, that the Bible says is vanity. It's a wind. There's no such thing as getting rich without effort. Right? And as the guy in the video says, listen, when you're watching those YouTube videos and they're telling you, listen, people are selfish. And if they have a quick wealth strategy, selfishness will make them keep it to themselves. The reason why people are trying to sell you, on the most part, their quick wealth strategies is because it's not working for them and they're making money off of your desire to get rich quick. There is no such thing as getting rich quick without effort. Now, there are people who can get rich quicker than others just because of the line of work they're doing or the type of business they're in. But it still takes what? Effort. And so when people tell you that you can gain wealth without any effort or just very little effort, they're being dishonest. They're not telling you the truth. And so what folks don't realize is that when we're talking about investing in business and stocks and real estate and different things like that, the first and most important investment that you ever make is investing in yourself. Investing in your brain is the most important investment. As you see, that guy who won something like $9 million within 2 years. Hey? 25 million. Thank you. 25 million within 2 years. What did he do? Luxury, sex parties, alcohol, boom. Why? Because he got that money and he was, I won't use that word, but he lost it all. Why? Because he never invested in himself. He never invested in his brain. And so it's not about how much money you earn. It's what you do with the money you earn. And Proverbs 21:17 says, he who loves pleasure will be a poor man. He who loves wine and oil will not be rich. What does that mean? If you live for immediate gratification, for immediate gratification, rather than to create wealth now and for future generations, you shall be poor. You will not be rich. You've got to retrain your brain. Understand? You can claim bankruptcy. You can do consumer proposals. You can refinance your mortgage so you can pay off your debt. Within 2 or 3 years, you're back in debt. You're back. It's a cycle. And if you paid off all your debt and with 2 to 3 years you're back in debt, you haven't invested in your brain. You don't know money. If you keep paying off debt and getting back into debt, stop being delusional. You don't understand money, because if you understood money, you wouldn't keep getting in debt. And all that the consumer proposal, bankruptcy, and refinancing and paying off the debt is doing is just simply resetting you to get back into debt. So you've got, the answer is not a consumer proposal. It's not bankruptcy. It's not refinancing. The answer is you investing in your brain, getting financial knowledge on how money works. So, quickly, there's 14 things you need to do in order to not be poor but rich. And we're going to talk about these 14 things more in depth on June 21st. So if you have not registered for the Wealth Creation Seminar, you word text a link. So all you need to do, remember, action. If you're going to be rich and successful, you got to take what? Action. You simply got to click the link and fill out the form and register. And if you didn't get the text, just go to our website, fiovn.org, go to Get Connected, and fill out the form there and register for the Wealth Creation Seminar so that you can get the information you need in order for you not to be poor but rich. So number one, that's what we're talking about. Invest in yourself, educate yourself about money, right? And that's why you need a financial coach or a wealth coach. You need one. Why? So that you can know how to utilize your money. Listen, let me ask you a question. Michael Jordan, was he one of the best basketball players that ever lived? Did he have a coach? The best singers in the world, do you know that they have vocal coaches? Tiger Woods, do you think he still had a coach while he was at the top of his game? Yes. And think about it, all these people, and they're at the top of their game, and they still have a coach. What about us? And so we need coaches in our lives. Well, I know how to do with money. No, you don't. You have to have someone to help you. Number two, decide not to spend more than you earn. Okay? Decide not to spend more than you earn. And so you're going to make a decision. I'm not going to live for pleasure. I'm going to live I'm not going to live for pleasure. I'm not going to spend money on things just because I like them and it makes me feel good. The perfect example of this is the prodigal son. What happened with the prodigal son? He got all this inheritance from his father, and he went and he did what? Spent the money on all kinds of stuff, on women, on alcohol, and whatever. And what did he end up? In the pig pen. And then he came to us and said, wait a minute, what am I doing? Even my father's servants. Now remember, it's the servants in my father's house. They were no longer his servants. The servants in my father's house, they eat better than this. I'm going back home and eat just from the crumbs of my father's house. But this is why people are poor. They do what the prodigal son does. Spend their money on things they don't need. Do you realize, what do you need? Food, clothing, shelter. That's all you need. Everything else above that is wants. And the reason why you're struggling financially is because you're spending on things that you don't need, but social media advertisers have convinced you that you need more than food, clothing, and shelter. And you buy it. And that's why most 70% of Canadians are in debt, because we've bought into the lie. Number three, have a wealth creation plan. A wealth creation plan, we'll talk about that as well on June the 21st. But a wealth creation plan is an enhanced budget. If you don't have a budget, you don't know where you're going, where you've been, and you're definitely not knowing how you're going to get to where you need to go. So that's number four, you have to increase your cash flow. You've got to increase your cash flow. Now, how do you increase your cash flow? Stop spending money on things you don't need. Reduce your expenses. Or increase your income. Or do both. Right? And so for some people, that may mean getting a part-time job. Or starting a side business. But understand, you do not take another job or side business ever going to stop you from praying, stop you from reading your Bible and stop you from being involved in the church. Because it's God that gives you the power to create wealth, not your side job, not your side hustle. It is God that gives you the power to create wealth. Number 5, eliminate all non-mortgage debt. I just want to correct, because that guy said it, and people say it all the time, that the house you live in is a liability. No, it's not a liability. Not a liability. Because I tell you what, for most of us, the house that we live in, that we bought, especially in the Greater Toronto area, and the time that you lived in the Greater Toronto area, it has gone up anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 in the time that you live. I don't know how much investment you got where you're in 2, 3, 4 years that your investment went up like over $100,000 to $200,000. The house is not a liability, folks, because you got to live somewhere. You're going to pay that money somewhere. What's the liability is the mortgage. You don't need to get rid of the house. You got to get rid of the mortgage. So I need to correct that thing that your house you live in is not a liability, because you're going to pay money to live somewhere. The liability is the mortgage, not the house. Okay? And so we've got to eliminate. So there's cash flow strategies that can be used to get rid of debt very quickly, and we'll talk about that on June 21st. The other thing is, you should not have more than 2 credit cards. You should not have more than 2 credit cards. You only really need one. The only reason you have 2 credit cards is sometimes the other one may not work. Like when we were in Montreal, when the thing went with the power with Rogers and all of them and everything, and we couldn't use our we're at the restaurant trying to pay. Couldn't use debit. Good thing we had a MasterCard. The Visa wouldn't work, but MasterCard worked. Right? So you have more than one credit card. Why? Because the debit wasn't working, the Visa wasn't working. Right? It's a backup. But you should only be using one of them. Really just one of them. But you haven't one for backup. But understand, your credit card should be used as a checking account. What does that mean? That means you have money in your savings account to pay off that credit card when it comes due. So if the due date is June the 5th, you make sure you paid off the balance by June the 2nd. Credit card's fine as long as you don't pay the 21% to 22% interest. Right? And you get the credit cards that has rewards and the points, and you collect the points. But don't deceive yourself as saying, well, I'm getting the points, but you have a balance. Those points are useless when you're paying 21% on $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 on your credit card. The bank is laughing at you. Okay? So you should never carry a balance on the credit card. And so if you already have huge balances on your credit card, we're going to talk about on June 21st how you can get rid of those huge balances on the credit card. Number 6, you need to be a cheerful giver. You need to be a cheerful giver. Proverbs 11:24 says, there is one who scatters, yet increases more. But there is one who withholds more than is right, but it leads to poverty. So when it says there's he who scatters, who gives, will increase more. But if you withhold more than you should, what happens? It leads to what? Poverty. It leads to poverty. So you need to be a cheerful giver. Number 7, you need to use life insurance. You need to learn how to use life insurance to build wealth now and for future generations. Okay? So you say, well, I have life insurance. You probably not have the right life insurance. Because most insurance brokers do not know how to use life insurance to build wealth. All they know to sell life insurance is as a death benefit. But the rich do not use life insurance just as a death benefit. Death benefit is a bonus. But there's ways to use life insurance to build wealth and to ensure future generations. And we're going to talk about that on June 21st as well, because the rich use life insurance to build wealth, to invest, and it's all tax-free. It's all protected from taxes. But that'll be discussed on the 21st. So, and that's why it's important to have a insurance broker that understands how to use life insurance. For everybody needs to have life insurance. But some of us now, because of how we didn't take care of our body, or we have genetic diseases, that we can't get a life insurance, but there's ways to build wealth even without life insurance. But it helps. Number 8. You purchase the things that you want with money you earned, or from the or money that's earned from your money. For instance, you have money invested in stocks, you get paid dividends, and you take the money from the dividends and you use that to spend on your wants. That's what the smart rich people do. The not so smart rich people do what the poor people do. It's only because they have money coming in. But statistics show that most wealthy families, by the time they get to the 3rd generation, all the wealth is gone. By the 3rd generation, all wealth gone. Gone. Not 1 millionaire left. Why? Because by the 2nd generation, they just have all the money and they just spend. And by the 3rd generation come out, the 2nd generation will spend all the money, and the 3rd generation got nothing. Okay, so we need to learn that if we want something, it comes from money we earn or that our money earned. Number 9. Now they talked about an emergency fund. I don't like that word because I don't want any emergencies. What we call it is a reserve fund, which is a better word. It's a reserve fund. And that reserve fund, as he said, you're building up, have 6 months and of salary, and that you don't touch. You don't touch it. You leave it, for God forbid, you need to transition from one job to another. You can transition from a job to another, just not because you got fired, but you really said, you know what, I need to get out of this job. I need to upscale myself. They're not paying me what I'm worth. They refuse to pay me what I'm worth. I'm going to upgrade myself, and I need some time. So you can't do that if you don't have a reserve fund. Right? And that reserve fund should be in a registered account so that it's earning interest tax-free. Right? You need to, for the things that you want, like vacations and clothes and different things, more clothes and shoes than you need, you should put that in a savings account that is in a non-registered account because you're going to keep going in and out of it. We need to get to the place that we are saving for vacation, saving for those clothes. You want that $500 Gucci bag or whatever Coach bag or whoever bag or whatever you want to have. You stop carding it and saving for it. It's quiet in here. Number 10, right? Now, after you've done all these other 9 things, you're ready, because people say, just invest. No, you're ready to do investments and stocks and real estate. Until you do all these other things, where you have savings so that you can deal with things that come up. Until you're doing all of those things, you're not ready. And so after you are ready now, you got to make sure that you have these people in your life. What are the people? You have a financial coach in your life. You have a financial advisor in your life. You have an insurance broker in your life so that you can take advantage of insurance, so that you know how to invest in stocks properly. You need a financial advisor. You need a financial coach and how to handle your finances properly. Now, if you have a household income of over 120,000, you need a certified professional accountant. Why? So that you're not paying as much taxes to the government. And especially if you have a business, you need a CPA. You need, well, they cost so much money, they'll save you even more money in taxes. And last but not least, you need an estate lawyer to make sure you set up your wills right, set up trust. And one of the things that we have not understood is about setting up trust so that we ensure that we have building generational wealth. Okay. Now, as we wind down, understand, once we get rid of all the non-mortgage debts, then we need to attack that mortgage debt. And we talk about cash flow strategies. There's cash flow strategies that you can use to get rid of your mortgage debt. But you want to get rid of all non-mortgage debt before you tackle that mortgage debt. And then, as the video mentioned, you got to take care of your health. Because if you don't take care of your body, if you're spending your money on junk food and garbage and putting all garbage in your body, and we'll talk about that, that's why we prosper and live in what? Health. Because what's the use of having all that money and you can't enjoy it because you're sick? And then number 14, you're going to teach all these other 13 things to your children. That's what we fail to do. You're going to do all those 13 things, and then number 14, you're going to make sure your children know these things, and so that they teach them to their children's children. Why? Why? Proverbs 13, 22 says, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. So these 14 things that I just talked about are necessary for us to leave an inheritance to our children's children. And the way that the wealth of the sinner is going to come to the righteous is if we do these 14 things. It's not going to happen just by osmosis. It's not going to just happen because you're righteous. We have to do these things. And because we have failed to do, they say, man, it's a lot of work to be rich. Yeah. Wealth gained by vanity shall what? Diminish. If you want wealth without any effort, it's going to diminish. It will not last. It takes effort. People say, I want to be a business person. I want to be an entrepreneur. You mind the hours a day that an entrepreneur works? While you're cutting Z's at night, entrepreneurs working. Entrepreneurs get like maybe 5-6 hours sleep a night. Sometimes they work 20 hours for the day. And people, I want to be my own boss. No, you're going to work for less than minimum wage being your own boss. Wealth requires work. And God created us to what? Work. God put man in the garden and told him to do what? Work it and to protect it. And so if we're going to live in wealth, in order for us to live the way God intends, we've got to what? Work and protect the wealth that comes from our work. Work is not a part of the curse. God put him in the garden to work before the curse came. So work is not a curse. It's a curse if you don't work. And you will abide under a curse if you're trying to get rich without work. And so I encourage you, go back over listen to this. But I said on June the 21st, we're going to, these things that I spoke about, I went through them quickly, but we're going to get into more in depth and put some legs, as it were, to these things so that we can begin to walk them out in order for us to do and accomplish what God has for us. Did you learn something today? Let's give the Lord a clap offering. Hallelujah.